Hi guys, Games here today and welcome back to my channel where we are back in The Sims with a speed build. So, I warn you, this one is kind of long, so you might want to go grab a drink, grab a snack, settle in, because we're in for a good one. So today I thought we'd kind of make like this tiny house community and have each tiny house themed after a supernatural creature. So unfortunately there are more than 4 supernatural creatures, but I could only fit 4 on this lot, so I've picked 4. If you want me to do the rest, I can also do those too. So to start off with, I put this fire pit down because I wanted there to be like a focal point of the community. I wanted there to be a socialization pit. So I kind of put that just as a guide. And then I went in and I roughed like out each space for the tiny houses just to make sure I still had enough room to fit them in. So it was just very rough, just a guide more than anything. And then I came in and started refining the first tiny house, which I chose as Mermaid. So this is our Mermaid house. And I was torn on what to do with this one because I didn't want to go like stereotypical, you know, mermaid where it's all like pinks and purples and all that stuff. I was toying with possibly doing it like a siren mermaid for a while. But I was like, yeah, but the Sims 4 mermaids aren't actually sirens. They are actual mermaids. So I did kind of go a bit stereotypical mermaid. I threw some other like hints in there of other things. It's kind of islandy, it's kind of tropically, but I really like how this one turned out. There's a lot of island living in here. So I came in and I just built out the base. It's kind of very basic. It's just a square with like a little jutted out section to one side. And then I was trying to fit the door on, and I'd done a pastel green fence, and I was kind of wanted to incorporate more pastels, and I thought this house would be kind of fun. I imagine maybe they're teens or young adults, maybe they're like friends who have moved here, or maybe it's some kind of university accommodation. They go to a supernatural university, and the university's like, right, you're all supernatural creatures, we know some of you don't get along, so instead of like living in dorms, you have like these little tiny houses. I don't know, I thought that would be quite fun. So I imagined this sim having like a really fun personality, so I wanted to keep it bright, pastel colours, and I originally was using these cottage living ones. And I really liked those, but I was like, does it fit in the theme? And then I was like, right, let's look at what Island Living has. And I love these open windows for Island Living. I really like how, I think they're just a bit different. I mean, they're probably not the best to use in a house, you know, because they're just like an open space. But I thought it fit like the mermaid like feel, because I feel like she'd want to be outside a lot with nature. So I went with those, and then I had to swap the front door and obviously the front windows because they didn't match. I do end up changing the windows. I wasn't happy with them. I felt like there was too many different types of windows going on for such a small space. But I kind of popped them there just as a guide, and I do go back in later and change them to something that I feel turns out a lot better. And then for the outside, I kept with the island theme and went with this blue sliding, which I do like. I wish it was slightly more pastel, but it is what we have, so it is fine. And then I felt like these roof pitches needed something because there's a big empty space. I did toy with putting in that pitched roof thing from Island Living, but I just felt it looked a bit funky. So in the end, I found these round windows from again, Cottage Living. I managed to fit something in from that pack, and I just stuck those on the eaves, and I think it looked a lot better. So this is me trying to figure out where to put the bathroom, and in my head, you'll see it after, I kind of wanted the bath to be a focal point because she's a mermaid. So I did give, well, I say she, it could be a he. I did give them a slightly smaller bathroom, and you will see why when I get to that. So for the wallpaper, I wanted something kind of to resemble like a fishtail, so I wanted ombre, and I found this one, but then when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, it's that stereotypical mermaid colours. So I looked at the different swatches, and then in the end I just compromised by using this kind of blue one, not so much like the pink, purples and blues, although they do come back as a feature colour in the build later on. And then in the bathroom I used this tile, which I feel like does again look like mermaid scales. So I picked that one, and now this is just me picking out a door for it. I kind of wanted everything in here to be like light and airy, so I went with like beachy wood colours, and then I'm just adding in these lights so that we can actually see. For the tiles in the bathroom, I was trying to pick out a colour that's on the tiles, so maybe like a peachy colour, and these are one of my favourite tiles. So I do use those a lot. I use them in quite a few builds, but I kind of wanted to look at other tiles as well because, you know, I was trying to maybe bring in some more pink, and in the end I did go with a pink and blue theme for this bathroom. I found this pink, I think it's from Snowy Escape, that toilet, and then I added in a sink and also a shower. just so they have an option for a shower. I then added in this cute mirror because it has like flower stickers on it, and I thought that just matched the mermaid vibe completely. Then I just added a tiny bit of clutter. The bathroom isn't huge, so you can't fit much in. So on the toilet, I just added a toilet roll and this scent pot, and then some towels and some bits and bobs in the shower. I then had this brainwave of, instead of having like a light in here, I was going to add these fairy lights. And then once I did, oh wait, I don't get to that yet. Spoiler, let me say, I do put a lamp in. I put that flower thing in above the toilet, and then I play tested it and none of it was usable. So I had to jig it around a little bit so that they could actually use it. But yeah, then I just kind of, once everything was usable, I had the idea of possibly like changing the light shade so that it was like more of a blue or a pink to reflect it. And in the end, I did play around with it for a minute trying to get it to work, but I just felt like no matter how dim or how like dull I tried to make the colours, it just overpowered all the other colours. So if I'd made it blue, the whole bathroom looked blue and we were losing that pink like pop, and the same as if I made it pink, we were losing the blue pop. So in the end, I just decided to just have it as a normal shade of orange. And then coming into the main room, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the flooring, because I didn't want to put carpet or anything because they're a mermaid, so I feel like they're in water a lot. So I felt like the carpet would just get soggy. So I tried tiles, and then in the end, I chose this like very light blue wooden floor. And I think it actually fit quite well in the end once like the house is finishing with all the other colours. And then this, what I'm working on now, is kind of like the focal point of the house, I think. So I imagined like a mermaid, like they're going to want to be in water all the time. Possibly they can't be. So I decided to have their bath in the main room next to this window so that they could, you know, if they're just hanging out, they could be in the bath in their mermaid form. And then they don't have to like stay in their human form all the time, but they can still, obviously these other Sims around them are supernatural creatures, they know about mermaids, so that they can, it's not like they won't be sharing their secrets if they're in mermaid form around their friends. So I thought, I don't know, it might be quite nice to have somewhere where they could relax in the bath and in the water, because I think they would like that. So around it, I just cluttered it up with some bits and bobs. I added in this trolley as if, you know, while they're in the bath, they kind of want their things around them, so they've got something to do. So it's got like books on it, and maybe they've got their iPad on there, you know, just so they can watch stuff while they're in the bath. And then I added some flowers because I really wanted a lot of nature. I imagine the mermaids live in like a tropical place, mainly because in Sulani, I feel like. So I wanted to bring that into the house as well, to kind of remind them of home a bit maybe. So I added in some plants. I then added in that mushroom one because I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love it. And I feel like with the, like, I feel like because they're like mythical creatures, you can have that little bit of fantasy and like a little bit of, yeah, I think the mushrooms do fit in there. So I did keep that in the end. And then for on here, I was trying to find a light or a plant or something. And in the end, I did remember about these petals from Island Living, and they are my favourite. It has a candle in the middle, and then I think they're like floating petals that go around it, and I've been using it a lot lately. It is one of my favourites, so I just added that in the corner. Then I wanted to like kind of add something to this space to kind of separate from the rest of the house if necessary. So, you know, maybe they don't always want to be on show. Maybe they want to have like a bath and just close the room off, get a bit cozy. So I added in these pillars, and I was kind of trying to start figuring out how to divide it. It was really annoying me that these wood swatches aren't matching despite being from the same pack and the same swatch. It was doing my head in, so I ended up trying like a million others, but none of them were really fitting in with what I wanted. They were all a bit bold. I kind of want them to have like a little bit of carving on them just to kind of match the aesthetic of the house, I guess, but nothing too crazy, and the others were just far too big. I then found this and was thinking about putting it as some ivy like between them. There is another one and I couldn't find it at the time, but looking back, it's from the plant pack. I can't remember what the plant pack is called, but there is actual proper ivy and it looks so much better than this what I'm using now. And I don't know how I missed it, because in my brain I was like, I know this exists, but I just couldn't find it, so that would have looked a lot better. I then thought it would be cool if we could add some sort of curtains so that if they wanted to, they could completely close this space off. So I played around with a few different ones. I had these ones from university, the high school, I think these ones. I put these ones out first, and I don't know how I feel about these. I feel like they need another curtain behind them. I mean, I think they've got like potential, but they're just not fully there. They need something else to make it good. I don't know how to explain it. So I got rid of those ones, and in the end I used these ones, which I think are also from, these are paranormal ones, sorry. Yeah, these are paranormal ones. So I added those in, and they came in like light pastel swatches, which I liked. But of course we have this funky gap in the middle, so I had to go find something to fill it in. And luckily there is this, it's like a beam. I can't remember what pack it's from. I think it's, I'm trying to look at it on the screen to see what the icon is. I can't quite make it out. But I feel like this should just be base game, because there's so many curtains that you could use. Because I don't like having the curtains over the window as if they're closed, because I feel like it just blocks the light, and like it's just not realistic. So I feel like in base game we should just have a piece like that where you can put between two curtains to kind of give the effect that the curtains are just open rather than having a big space between them. So I added that in, and then that was me trying to figure out if we could still add that ivy. And I wasn't completely sold on it, so in the end I did delete it, which I wasn't too sad about. And then I figured it was kind of still missing something because you had the gap in the curtains, which I can't really fix because it's just how it is. So I decided to bring some of the fairy lights from the bathroom out into the main area here, because I feel like maybe other night time they'll turn all the lights off, and like all the main lights, and just have like candles on and like soft lighting. I found these ones which I felt like reminded me of like a holiday and like tropical places. I feel like they might have maybe been given them as a gift or something, and just popped them up. I was then going to see if I could add the same kind of curtain thing I'd done to block off the bathroom on this window here, because obviously it is just an open space. But I couldn't get it so that they went behind the string of lights. So in the end I just ignored it, thinking these are all supernatural creatures. I feel like nobody would try and mess with them. I then play tested the bath, and oh my god guys, I had some drama. So I play tested the bath with my character, and in the process of doing it my character died. So the Grim Reaper showed up. That's why I got that notification there, that achievement or whatever. And it was like a mad chaotic 5 minutes where everybody turned up, everyone's mourning, and the Grim Reaper's there. So I had to I had to just like sort my game out for a minute before carrying on with the kitchen there that I just kind of tucked on the back wall. Again, I brought out some pastel colours. I kind of like how it's not matching, like the stove is different to the fridge and the fridge is different to the counters. I just think it really suits this house. It was at this point that I realised I do actually need to fit in a bed, and that, you know, the mermaids, I don't know if they can sleep in water, but I felt like she'd probably need a bed, or they would probably need a bed. So I did like a reshuffle, and I put the kitchen here by this front window, and I think it's like a perfect space for it, because if the kitchen didn't go here, I don't know actually what would, because it's kind of like an awkward shape with the lip of the step up to the bath sticking out. So it did mean I had to kind of cram the door into the corner a little bit, but I think it kind of worked in the end. It doesn't feel too squashed when you're in here. So for the bedding, I kind of picked this swatch that's, again, very tropical, very pastel. I think it like fit the theme of the house, sorry. And then I found this nightstand, which I kind of feel, again, it's kind of whimsically, kind of a bit hippie, which I think goes with the house. So I added those, and then I added in these Ireland living curtains as well. And then I just came in and added in some clutter. So I added in a light on the nightstand there. And then I come out and I pull out some other different furniture types. I wasn't sure what to do in terms of whether I wanted to have like a hanging railing for the clothes, or if I wanted more of a dresser. And then as I pulled this dresser out, I was like, oh my god, I don't even know where I'm going to have room for a living area, like where they're going to watch the TV. I then had the thought I could possibly put the dresser at the end of the bed and have the TV facing it, so like you sit on the bed to watch it, but you can't do that in The Sims. It has to face out. So then I had the brainwave of having it facing the bath, because if the bath is going to be like their chill out space, then they can sit in the bath and still watch the TV, and then if they want to sit on the bed they can just tilt it. It's not like a huge TV. And then I came in and I tried to I did add in a dining area, just so they had somewhere to sit, you know, if a friend came over. And then I added in a second chair. Again, maybe they could pull this one out to watch the TV, so if someone came over, there's just seating options, because I felt like we don't have a sofa or anything, which I think is fine for the main sim, because again, I feel like they'd be in the bath, or they could sit on the bed and relax. But if a friend comes over, it might be a bit awkward being like, yeah, just chill on my bed. So I added in just a couple of chairs. I was then trying to find a rug that would go with like everything that's going on, and that kind of is harder than you think. I mean, the room is, I feel like it's very chaotic with all the colours and stuff, so you think it would be easy to find a rug, but I think it's a very specific aesthetic, so finding a rug was kind of hard. But in the end I settled for this like fluffy one with the flowers on it, and I love it. I think it goes so well. I then just pulled out some other basic clutter, so on top of that unit there I added in like a set of drawers where they could maybe keep all their jewellery and a hairdryer, and then on the bedside table I added in like a water bottle and some magazines, that kind of stuff. I did contemplate adding in some glasses, because the thought of like a mermaid needing glasses and like swimming around under the ocean with their glasses on, I just thought was a bit funny, but in the end I didn't. I kind of wish I did now though. And then I was debating like, would they be into fitness and like working out? But I'm like, I think swimming would be the extent of their fitness. I think it'd also be kind of funny if you had like a mermaid who just hated physical activity, because obviously when they're in their mermaid form, they are forced to do physical activity. And then just came around and added in some plants everywhere, so a hanging one above the bed and then also one on the table. I was debating of what to do with the walls, like whether to put art on them or something, but I kind of figured that the walls were so chaotic with that wallpaper print that I didn't really need it. And obviously with everything else going on, we do have a lot of clutter. We have the bath like focal point that I felt like it just didn't really need much on the wall, so I did leave them pretty bare. And then I came out and I started to kind of decorate the front porch. I deleted the steps I'd put there just so I could like get my sim in to play test. And I wasn't sure what to do here, because I wanted, the porches aren't huge because obviously like the tiny houses, and I wanted like the main area between them to be the focal point. So on each of their little porches that they do have, I kind of just tried to add something that I think the sim, like the specific supernatural creature would have. So I imagine the mermaid being quite social, so I wanted to add in some like little plants, somewhere she could sit and just like hang out, because like I said, I think she would be out if she's not, like obviously I think when she's not in her mermaid form she would be outside a lot. I think she'd like to hang out with her friends, so I just wanted somewhere where they could sit in the sun and enjoy themselves. So I just added in a couple of chairs and then a light, so obviously if it gets dark they don't have to come inside. I added in a table, which I always do next to these seats, because I'm like, oh, then you can put your drink on it. But then I did cover it in this huge massive plant, so they can't put too much on it. I then realised that in the process of moving everything, all my clutter had been deleted from this trolley, so I just went back through and popped it back on. Then moving on to the second house, this one is going to be for our witch. This is where I realised that everybody was still hanging out on my lot, so I had to quickly kick them off and then I could get into the building. So I tried to use a lot of Realm of Magic stuff, but again, I didn't want it to be like stereotypical witch. I didn't want to just use that pack. So I came in, I refined the layout a little bit. I kind of got rid of some of the excess porch that I had, kind of changed up the shape a little bit to kind of fit what I because when I was putting like these bases down, I was more just mapping out the shape or like the size to make sure I had enough. And then as I was coming back in now, I was like having a bit more idea of what I wanted for a layout. So I was just changing that up so it kind of fit that. I did use the door from Realm of Magic, but I don't think I ended up using the fencing. I think it kind of looked a bit much, so I did just use this plain fencing. I think it's base game. Don't quote me on that though, because it might not be. I love these Realm of Magic windows though, so I decided to use those. I thought they kind of looked a bit small, just having like the two ends stuck together, so I came back through and added in a centerpiece, and I think it looked a lot better. I was kind of stuck on the aesthetic to go with this, because my personal favourite aesthetic, I love dark gothic architecture. It's just my favourite, like dark academia. I really love all that sort of stuff. So I try not to do it too much in my builds, because all my builds would just look like that. So I do try and like challenge myself by doing maybe different styles. And also I didn't want it to be, she's a witch, so she's into all this dark stuff. So I kind of like to switch it up a bit. But so I found it kind of hard to know what I wanted this sim to be, and like what kind of character they were. So in the end, I think I kind of went off the door a little bit, like a random thing. There's like a little pattern on it. You can kind of just see it there. It's like stained glass. It's got a moon and some stars, and it's blue and purple, I think. So that was like where I went initially. It does change because I find another item that I like slightly more than the door and decide to go off that instead. Like the door stays, but the colour scheme goes off this new item instead. And I think it turns out really well in the end. I kind of seem to pull it together in the last minute. I did want to use that flooring from Realm of Magic, but I didn't want that pattern to be like all over the floor. So I was trying to figure out if there was a way to do it so that you could like use a swatch of it for the outside that had the pattern, and then have the inner section of the floor just plain wood, but you can't like dictate what section of the flooring you're using. It is just that, like, it's not like with some of the other swatches they have like, do you know, like in the kitchen where you can say I want this like a corner cabinet or a long cabinet, like you have options like that. Some of the flooring have options, like this one I'm using now has an option so you could do a border around the outside and then plain tile in the middle, but that other flooring didn't. I decided to use this door from, I think that one is from Cottage Living. I think Cottage Living overlaps with the Supernaturals quite a lot because it has quite whimsical stuff, and I think it fits in with these builds very well. So this is me now coming in and trying to find a wallpaper, and boy was it a challenge, because again, I didn't have a real direction of what I wanted to do in terms of decor, and I think that's kind of where I fell down initially with these builds. I think they all do pull together eventually, but I did find it difficult because I like to build based on a sim. So a lot of the times before, like, I might be like, oh, I'm going to build a tiny house today, so I'll say like what I want to build, and then I like create the sim in my brain. I don't always create it in Create a Sim, but I'll kind of make a character that I'm going to live in that house. So they might be like, oh, they're a plant sim, they're really into growing their own fruit and vegetables, and they work in a florist, maybe they sell the creations they grow, like, so I know then who lives in the house, and I find it a lot easier to then build that house, if that makes sense. So because I hadn't done this with this house, I was like, I don't know what direction to go in. And then I was in this section here, in this little bay, I was debating putting the kitchen, because I feel like that window is a really good focal point. So I was going to put the kitchen, and then I was like, oh, maybe it'd be really good for an office, because I feel like this witchy sim would be very much into research. So I think they'd have a nice writing desk, they'd have like a lot of grimoires, they'd be like constantly like looking up things. So I wanted them to have a space where they could do that. For the kitchen, again, I picked kind of like whimsically a little bit gothic furniture just because I think it fitted well. So we went round with that, and then I went through and tried to find some curtains that were going to match, which again was a little bit hard because these Realm of Magic ones just did not fit the windows, and because they have like that specific ornate frame shape, I couldn't even like hack it so that they were going to fit. So in the end, I do come back to those later, but I'm like, right, I need to leave that for a minute because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do at this point for the windows. I do fix them eventually though, spoiler. I then came through and just added a little tiny bit of clutter. The kitchen isn't huge, so there's not much room. I added that, like, I think it's like a beetle lamp above the door, just because I think it's cool. I didn't want to add too many though, because I thought it is a lot. So I just thought if I just add one, then that'd be like a nice little feature. And then I thought, since they don't have a too big of a kitchen, I'll add in some shelves, because I imagine this sim is, because they're like witchy, I imagine they have lots of jars around with maybe like dry herbs and stuff. I do give them a garden later because I imagine they grow their own herbs and plants that they use in their spells and their rituals. So I kind of wanted them to have somewhere where they could put it all. We don't have that many jars in The Sims though. I could have possibly looked in Debug thinking about it. But yeah, I wish we had more like little jars and little trinkets that we could put out. I do end up using these ones, which are actually from the cats and dogs pack. They are for the veterinary clinics. If you look too closely, there's like cotton swabs in there, but I think from a distance they don't look too bad. And then on the next shelf, I think I end up just kind of putting, just some random bits that I felt like could kind of cross over into witchiness and spells. Currently, I'm just pulling out anything that I think kind of fits the vibe in the, just to have it so that when I'm coming to build like the rest of the room, I've got some inspiration. Like I had a teapot, I had in those scrolls next to it. And then I decided that on the top shelf, I'm going to cover it in books. Again, I think they'd have a lot of like grimoire, a lot of like recipe books and like spellcraft books. So I needed somewhere for them to go. So I just come in and add all of those. I do end up using the shelf trick. And if you've seen my videos before, I tell you how I have never figured it out before, but recently I think I've got the hang of it. I'm finding it a lot easier to use than I used to. Like, I don't know why, but to start off with, when I first found out about it, I mean, it's been around for ages, but I just couldn't figure it out. I don't think I really understood what we had to do with it. But I figured it out now, and it is a lot easier. I think before I was trying to put it on the shelf and then thinking you took the shelf away, but you don't. You just line it up with the shelf so it's on the same level. like with the additional shaft, and then you alt drag it to the space like in its forever home. So it's a lot easier to use. Again, this is where I realised, crap, I've thought of everything. I've even given her like a study section, but I've forgotten about the bed. So I was coming in, I looked at the Realm of Magic beds, but they are just way too ornate and fancy. I just don't think they suited the space. I was going to use that same one that I used in the Mermaids, but I kind of wanted to mix it up a bit. So I went with this one. I think it's from high school years, this one. So I just kind of slotted it here, and then figured I still have room next to it to put in a desk and like a study area, so it wasn't too bad in the end. As you can see, I still haven't really figured out a colour scheme. Everything is kind of dark woods and then neutrals. There's not like an overriding colour yet. So I think this is kind of where the colour starts to come together. I bring out all this furniture from Realm of Magic, and I'm just like going through it, trying to find any swatch that I think is okay. I found these yellow ones, and I actually do like that, but these chairs just would not clip to this table for some reason. And I looked at it and I was like, is it an end table? But it's in like the dining table section. So in the end, I did swap it out, because I was like, if they're not clipping to it, I don't know if the Sims will be able to use it. Maybe it's just like a bug and they can. But in the end, I used this paranormal one, and this is what sets the scene for the rest of the colours in this build. It's not this swatch that's currently on it. There is a second swatch that is basically the same colour, but I think it's plain, and I just fall in love with it. And I'm like, right, it's like a moody dark purple. It's like the best shade. It's like not too bright. It's kind of a bit red, and yeah, I really like it, so I add that in. And I do even manage to fit in a small sofa section in this corner. I end up putting the TV on the dresser, and then they get an armchair and like this big stack of books, which I think fits the Sim so well. And then it is that swatch for the table. It's not the plain one, it's the plain swatch for the sofa that I end up using. I do get rid of that table because I did think it was a bit much with the tablecloth. And then, because obviously then we've got the tablecloth, the chairs and the armchair that are like the same shade, and it was just a bit overpowering. So I swapped that out for just a plain brown table, and I think it fits it well in the end. And then in this bay, I wanted to fit in a writing desk, or just a desk where they can do their research. So again, I found this nice purple shade on this chair, and I was so glad. I think it looks so good, because I feel like sometimes in The Sims the purple swatches are very like eggplanty or very bright, and I like that this one was a bit moodier, and it fit it well. I do end up just using these curtains, I think. Or do I switch them out in the end? I might not. I might just use them. And it covers up the windows, which I hate, because I feel like we get these such ornate, nice windows, and then we have to end up covering them with blinds and stuff, because the blinds just aren't like... I wish they would just looked a bit more open. I then just add some clutter to this side of the desk here. They obviously don't have a nightstand because they have the desk, so I tried to fit in whatever clutter was on the nightstand. I put it just on the desk next to it, so there's like a mug. There's an open book as if they're like in the middle of research. And then instead of the computer, I gave them this like, I think it's an iPad with the keyboard that looks like an old-fashioned typewriter. I don't think it is an actual typewriter. I might be wrong there though. But I thought it just fit the vibe of this Sim. I think they would 100% have that. I think that's so cool. I mean, I personally would have that. It looks really good. I was then trying to figure out a rug situation without it being too overpowering, because this is such a small space. I feel like we already have a lot of textures going on, a lot of different styles that I didn't want anything too bold for a rug. So in the end, I do use this like paranormal one. It kind of brings in a bit of blue, which doesn't really match, but it's okay. I wish the bedspread was a bit different looking back. I don't think the bed completely goes, but I don't think it's too bad. I think I do end up moving the door over so you can actually get into it. Into like the bathroom, if I don't do it now, I do it after. Like it does get moved so you can actually get into this bathroom, because currently the dresser is in the way. But in the bathroom, it was it turned out to be like quite a big space. So I wanted to keep it kind of old looking to fit like the rest of the build. But I wanted to give them a shower. They have a bath so they can relax in. And then I gave them this like old sink. It's kind of got a copper basin, which I really like. Put some blinds on the window. And then I found these they're plants that I think they're from, are they from, what's it called again? Cottage living. They could possibly be. But they're kind of a little bit planty, and I think it went with the build quite well. So I used those. They've got like fairy lights inside them. I really like them. And then on the floor I added in this like unit where they could keep some of their makeup maybe, and a hairdryer, because I don't have too much storage in here, so I feel like they might have just popped it on the floor next to it. They are a witcher, so maybe they could magic all their personal items into another realm and then call on them when they need them. And then found these candles, and they set a new direction for the bathroom, so I put them on the toilet, and then I'm like, yeah, maybe witches would have more candles around, because I feel like they are used quite often in magic. So I added in some shelves above the bath, and then on the lower shelf I just filled it with candles. Maybe they put them on when they're in the bath, but they can also bring them into the living room to use when they're doing their spellcrafts. And then on the other shelf I just had some random clutter in that I think would be kind of appropriate for a bathroom. I debate changing the colours, but then I kind of remembered, like, I just had like a memory of something I watched like ages ago just hit me. I was like, I think that when people are doing spells with candles, like the different coloured candles mean different things, so depending on their intent they'd use a specific colour candle, and I couldn't remember what the colours are, so I just left them plain, because I was like, I don't want to accidentally use the wrong colour candle in here. And I did think there's like bad colours. It's just kind of like, if you want to maybe do a spell about love, you'd maybe use a red candle, or if you want to use a spell about wealth, you use a different colour. So it's not like if you want to hex someone, you use like this specific hex colour. It's just, yeah, I think the colours in candles kind of work into spell work, so I just decided to leave them plain. And then I think that was it for the bathroom. Just added in some like makeup bits, a vase of roses just for like a little pop of colour. And then this is where I've come in, because I remembered I added in those columns. So I was debating about adding in, like, I think it's a spandrel or something across the top, but I decided to, like, I think I've got enough going on in this room that they don't need that. I did think though that they'd have some stuff on the walls. Again, I imagine this image young adult, maybe in college. So I added in some posters, just kind of maybe of things they'd been, concerts and stuff. And then I found this cowplant one. I feel like that was very witchy. I don't know, I just liked it. It was a bit quirky, so I decided to add it. And then here comes the task of me trying to find some curtains to go on these blinking windows, and I swear to God, it was so hard. I just think, because they're quite close together, I didn't want the wall to just be a wall of curtains. Like, I wanted it to kind of be different, like to have like it to still see the wall and the windows. So in the end I did go again with these ones from Paranormal. They're coming in and saving my life recently. I think it's just because of how like tied back they are, they're open, they kind of look a bit whimsical, and I feel like you could possibly even add some clutter to the top of that spandrel. I don't know if you could, but maybe. And they also had like a purpley swatch which matched like the kind of accent colour I was going for. So then coming outside again, I decided to add some stuff to their little porch area. I added a light so that they could see. And then I just come in and add some planters. I do add quite a few planters around this plot because we have the witch who needs them. We also have another supernatural character who needs them. You'll meet them later. So I thought that everybody would kind of grow their own plants, so we'd need a lot. And then I found these little flower boxes and I decided to add them under each of the windows. Again, just for that pop of colour. I think it suits this house quite well because it's kind of cottagey, I imagine the sim does grow a lot of their own plants, and not just like edible ones, but like flowers, herbs, that kind of stuff for all their spell work. So I think they would have a lot of nature around them and a lot of flowers. I mean, these are all the same colour because if you change the colour, it changes the colour of the box, but we can just pretend that they're all different ones that they've been growing. I then come in and just finish off the decking with a different trim, and then I realised I hadn't done that on the mermaid side, so I go over and do that. Now moving on to our third house, and this is our werewolf house. So the werewolf house did take me a minute to figure out, because I feel like in The Sims, werewolves are portrayed, they're kind of a bit run down, they're like, I don't know, I just don't like how they're always portrayed as having like a bit of a grotty house, you know. I wasn't a fan of that, so although I do use some werewolf stuff, I try not to lean too much on that aesthetic. Like werewolves could be rich and live in a fancy mansion, but I feel like The Sims just doesn't portray them as that. I don't know why. It's like the vampires, I feel like, are the richer ones who are portrayed as, you know, being posh and having all this nice stuff, while the werewolves are portrayed as living on like these lots with like all junk in the yard, and like, I don't know, maybe it's because they go on their rampages and like when they like trash everything, it kind of just collects up. But yeah, I didn't want to portray too much of that in this lot. I wanted my sim to have like a nice house. So I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do a roof deck, because I feel like the werewolves, I wanted it to have like very golden retriever energy. I think they'd be very social, they'd always be hanging out, they'd always have lots of friends around them, like a big social group. So, and they're kind of like a little bit naughty in a way, so I feel like they probably would have, if they could have. If they had like a flat roof, I feel like they 100% would have stuck a ladder up against it and made some sort of rooftop area. Like, even if it was against the rules, I feel like they'd have just done it because it's like, it looks cool, it's a cool place to hang out. So I did toy with that. I hated it though. I couldn't figure it out how to do it so that the roof didn't look weird. I mean, I could have done it if I played around with it for a while, or just played around with it for like a little bit more. But at this point, I'd already figured out what, like, another thing to do that I wanted to do more. So I delete the roof area, and then I decide to do my new brainwave, which you're kind of seeing now. I'll tell you about it when we get to it. Let's see if you can all figure out what's going to happen down here in this basement. I'm sure you can. But yeah, so I removed the roof bit and just kind of put a normal roof on top of it. And then inside, I was trying to figure out a layout and like what I wanted to do. I kind of figured that werewolves are kind of big, so I didn't want to have, although it's a tiny house, I didn't want to have like a super small space. So I gave them a little bit of a bigger bathroom, and I decided to kind of use an accent of green after seeing these windows. I do use some of like the more rundown ones, but then I really like these brick ones. I like the brick like trim on them. I think they're really nice. I put the ones in the bathroom a bit higher up because obviously they are fully open, so you know, we don't want anyone peeping in. But I think they kind of go with it in the end. The outside brick texture is also from Werewolves, and I really like a brick outside exterior, like facade. I don't know what you'd call it, but yeah, I think it went really well in the end with this build because it is a bit darker. You'll see, it does go well. And then I had some roof trim and realised that I forgot to do it on the others, so I do go back and add it to all of my builds. I think in looking back, this probably wasn't the best place for this lot. It's probably slightly too small, not in the sense of the houses, just in the sense I wish I had more space to add nature, like, and build up the lot around the houses. So I would probably move this somewhere bigger if it was like going to be in my game fully. Like if I was doing it for a play or whatever, I would move it to somewhere bigger just so I could add a little bit more to the outside. And then coming in for the bathroom, I decided to go for this like yellow and green theme. Just, it's a little bit, I don't know, I just thought it was a little bit different, a little bit away from that stereotypical werewolf aesthetic. And then for the main side, like interior of the house, like the main body of the tiny house, I wasn't sure on, again, what colour I wanted to go. I know I had this green pop of colour, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to go with it. So I just kind of put a light grey on the walls. It's kind of like a blue grey, which I do change because I wasn't a fan of it. I then realised that this house is way too big. Like, I know it is maybe a tiny house, and I did want it to be slightly bigger because it's for a werewolf, but I feel like it was just way too big compared to the others. So I shrunk it down a bit and then went round and added bins to everyone's house because I realised I also forgot those. But I really like how this werewolf has come back. I feel like it feels very cosy and it's very warm in here. Like I said, I do imagine the sim has a big family, it has loads of friends. I feel like the werewolves are very community-based people. I feel like they are very social and they're always around other people. I feel like they're not, unless they're like alone or something, like as a whole, they are very much want to be around other people. They have people over all the time. So I kind of wanted to have that like feel in this house. So this is me now trying to break up that grey a bit and bring the brick from outside inside. I did try a few different bricks from the kits, but I felt like they looked a bit bright for what I was going for. Like the red was just too much. So I do end up just using exactly the same one that is on the outside and just bring that in. And then in this, oh yeah, I do change the floor as well because I feel like once I did the bricks, here's me changing the bricks to match the outside, the floor didn't really go. So I do update that, and I feel like it kind of has an industrial vibe. I don't know, I just really like how this turned out. I added some clutter to the kitchen. I didn't add too much though, just a little bit, so my sister can make some tea, some kitchen roll, and just kind of some basic stuff. I then add some books in because I feel like this sim might not be the tidiest. I feel like they're always up, always out, always on the go. So maybe they just don't keep their house as tidy as some of the others. So I kind of add some dishes by the sink as if they're just kind of a little bit behind on dishes, and then some pens as if they're just kind of throwing them on the side, and we'll get to them later. For the dining area, I did try and include in each one like a kitchen, a bedroom, somewhere for them to eat, and then like a sofa area. But for the werewolves, I wanted them to have like a bigger table because, again, I think they'd be very social and they'd have a lot of people around, so I wanted like there to be plenty of seating. And then I wanted, so the hatch that goes downstairs is going to go to a basement room for when the werewolf like angers out. I can't remember what it's called, like wears out. I don't know what happened, freaks out, I don't know. So it goes down there. But I thought that they might be kind of not embarrassed, but kind of not want everybody to know when this happens to them. Maybe it's something they're like a little bit self-conscious of when they kind of lose control of their werewolf side, so they kind of hid it away. Also, I feel like when they're in their werewolf side, they're kind of vulnerable, so they might not want people to know where they go in case, I don't know, there's like a werewolf hunter around. So they kind of hidden it away. It's obviously can't be hidden too far. I kind of imagine it also that they didn't exactly get permission to build into the basement. They have just done it because they need it. So they don't want like the landlord or whoever owns this property to know that they've done it. So they kind of hide it behind a bookcase in the hopes that they can just keep it a little bit more secretive. I find these curtains, and honestly, I don't know why I've never seen them before. They have so many good swatches, but I don't think I've ever used them. I feel like sometimes when I'm looking for curtains, I'll see like, or just any items, you see like the initial swatch and you're like, oh, that's not what I want. But then if you look at the other swatches, there's like really cool stuff in there. Those, like, there's a swatch that's kind of like moony, celestial, that I really like. I think I'll be using a lot in the future. For the bedside table, I used it from Outdoor Retreat. I used quite a few Outdoor Retreat items because they're kind of a bit more rustic looking, which I think fits the vibe of this house well. And now I'm adding in the shelf from Werewolves just by the bed there, and cluttering it up with some different werewolf pieces. Just some of the clutter that comes with it. There's these two like little toys. I think they're kids' toys, but I decided to use them as if maybe they've been given them as a present when they were young, and they just kind of keep them with them. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've got teddies that I had gifted when I was younger that I was obsessed with when I'm a child, and I've still got them now because it like feels bad to get rid of them. So I feel like they might have just kept them all these years. And then I'm just using that shelf trick now to just get them so they're actually sitting on the shelf. Because I feel like even though this is a shelving unit, no clutter like snaps to it. It's kind of annoying. I was going to use this gnome as if like somebody had given them as a joke. Like, oh, you're a werewolf. I found this werewolf gnome, but it was hovering on the shelf. So instead, I swapped it out for like a mini hat collection. I have been doing this quite a lot in like the young adult or like teen houses I've been making. Adding in a little hat collection, because I feel like it's a thing people do, like they collect hats, they collect sneakers, so it's just another clutter item to use in our builds. And then for a dresser, I added in these trunks because I feel like they just fit the vibe of the house very well. I added in a lamp. That lamp does move around a bit. I just kind of pulled it out because I know I wanted to use it, but I wasn't set on where it went yet, so it does get moved around quite a few places before it finds its home. And then for the TV unit, I didn't have a lot of space because I had used this big table. So I do add in a recliner. I do shuffle it around a bit, and I even like move it over here. I get my sim in to play test it. I then realise my sim is a ghost, so it can literally go wherever she wants. So it doesn't really work out. So I end up putting it back where it was because I feel like that is the best spot for it. And then they just get a recliner. I feel like this sim would be very active. They're probably into sports, so they'd be outside a lot. I feel like although they have space for their friends to come inside, they probably don't come inside a lot. Maybe they just run inside for snacks and to use the bathroom and stuff, but they are outside a lot of the time. So yeah, I feel like the amount of chairs we've got in here is fine. I did debate using a round table because I was like, maybe it's more compact and can still fit the same amount of chairs in, which I think it kind of is slightly, but it just looked weird. It kind of got rid of my divide to the stairs, and I really liked that, like how it was hidden, so I just ended up putting it back. I added in some sports equipment, just in the corner on the bed there. I then wanted to add some sports like memorabilia if they're like really into football or something, but there wasn't that much that I could find. There's this poster here, and then there's that one, and then there's one locked behind I think it's behind a job, which is basically just a framed version of it. But I feel like we need more memorabilia and stuff as for like if our Sims. I feel like if you're into comics and stuff and nerdy stuff, there's a lot for the Sims, but not if you're like super sporty or anything. I then thought that maybe they'd add some graffiti to the wall, so I found this like devil and angel cat and used that. I love this painting. I think it's from high school years, and then also another high school years poster, which is just like a collage of different stuff. And then in the bathroom, I wanted to keep it kind of simple. It's very classic, I'd say. It's very, square shaped. I brought in that like orangey, yellowy cream colour from the top of the tiles there as like our main colour. And yeah, I just kept it very simple. They have everything they need in here. It's slightly bigger than the others because the werewolves I feel like are slightly bigger. Just in like stature. I feel like the werewolves are just a bigger human, so they'd need a little bit more space. And then I add in this moon mirror, which is one of my favourites. I really like that. I think it goes with a lot of different styles of rooms as well. Like you could use it in a gothic room, a celestial room, like somebody who's like artsy. It's very versatile. I had to use that one quite a lot. And then I just added some towels. I had in this like what I imagine to be a first aid cabinet above the sink. It's kind of, you can put anything in it, but I imagine it has like first aid supplies because like I said, I think this werewolf kind of gets himself into trouble a lot. He's a bit adventurous. Maybe he's like the first to like go climbing up trees. He'll like go explore abandoned buildings. He's just kind of like always on the go, always up for anything. So I do imagine he kind of gets himself bumped up a bit, so he's gonna need them first aid supplies. I was then thinking about adding in these mats to the floor, just bath mats, but for some reason they just looked awful. I think it's partly due to the colour and partly due to the size of them, so I did switch them out for something a little bit bigger, and I think that it looks a lot better. And that's kind of it for the main area. I added some lights, and then we go downstairs and do the basement. So for this, I imagine maybe when it's a full moon or when their emotions just get a bit much, they come down here and they kind of lock themselves away, kind of in like the Vampire Diaries, where when it's like the time, like the full moon, they kind of chain themselves up in their basements and stuff. So I added that in here. I added like a chain fence so they could still see out, and a door that they could get locked. The floor is concrete and then it's just brick walls. I don't add much down here. I ended up adding in a chair and a stack of books next to it because I feel like maybe their friend comes down with them just to keep them company and just to have like a friendly face down here, so maybe they've just been reading. And then in the room itself I add in a bed and this light because I feel like it looks really creepy. This one is from Get to Work, but I do end up switching it out for one that's from Werewolves because they have a very similar one. Yeah, it's just a bit bigger and looks a bit older, so I just add that in as like a spotlight above the bed there. And that's about it, because when these werewolves get into these moods they do trash the place, so I didn't want to add too much. I just wanted to add something. I then again thought maybe they'd added some graffiti down here, so add that. I was going to add a rug, but again I removed it because I was like, no, they wouldn't have that. But what I did come in and add is some like cracks and stuff, because I feel like when the werewolf is like going mad they would be scratching up the walls, they'd be really trying to escape this room. So I wanted to add some like signs that it's of where like that it's kind of been beat up a little bit from where this werewolf has like been trying to escape. So I add those. I think they're from a mixture of vampires and I'm not sure what other pack they're from. I think mostly vampires, those ones. And then I just switch out the ladder because it was one from high school years, I think, that has like ivy and leaves on it, and I felt like it just didn't match the vibe that we were going for down here. Then on their porch, I kind of just wanted this to be a hangout place. I wanted it to be another place where they could come, sit with their friends and relax. I think that's the main like takeaway, and like the main thing I went for this werewolf house. I just wanted it to be like a very much community hub, so I add in a lot of chairs outside. I do come back and add in some sports equipment. I add in these like little plants here just to make it a little bit nicer for them for when they are out here doing whatever they're doing, wrestling each other, or I don't know, playing football, whatever they're going to do. And now we move on to our last house, which is our vampire house. And I kind of thought it'd be funny to put it opposite the werewolf house because obviously they are like kind of rivals. They don't really like each other. I mean, maybe they have like a love-hate relationship in this friendship group, so they kind of like each other, but they get on at each other a bit. They kind of joke around, they kind of rib each other a bit, and they just have that sort of relationship. So I thought it'd be funny if they were opposite each other. So for the vampires, I drastically reduced the deck outside because I feel like they probably won't be sitting outside that much. They would be inside quite a lot, and obviously unless it's nighttime. And I don't think they'd be that social, so I didn't want them to have like a big seating area outside of their house. I feel like they'd very much discourage that. It'd kind of be I will invite you over, rather than you just turn up at my house. I then just added in some bits. I know there's a sign from werewolves, and it's kind of like a keep out werewolf sign, and I was trying to find that to put outside the vampire's house because I thought it'd be funny, because like obviously the werewolf lives opposite, but I couldn't find it. I think it's actually in debug, and I didn't have all that stuff up, so I think that's how I lost it. I was then just trying to figure out the layout of this tiny house and like where the bathroom was going to go. I did end up giving them a slightly bigger bathroom again because I kind of wanted it to be a bit more luxurious. But I feel like a lot of these layouts are kind of the same because there's not much you can do because they are so small. I added a brick outside to this one because this one is slightly more gothic. It's a little bit older in style, so I thought that fit it well. It is also a bit darker. I did kind of toy with the idea of making it the opposite. So I know like vampires are like known for being like a bit broody, a bit dark, a bit gothic, and I did contemplate about making it like super pastel in here, as if the vampire has like completely gone against everything that is stereotypical vampire and gone like completely in the other way, because the stuff does have like pink swatches and there's like white swatches and stuff. So I thought it'd be kind of funny if we did go pastel, but I didn't in the end because I love a darker aesthetic and it kind of won out. But maybe on another build I'll kind of do a vampire house where it's very pastel, it's very like green and like opposite of a stereotypical vampire. And when I say green, I mean like a lot of plants, a lot of life around, as if they're like, I can't go outside during the day, so I'll bring the day inside. I think that might be a fun build. In here, I did add a tiny kitchen because although vampires don't need a kitchen, I feel like this vampire would just drink blood. I don't think they'd eat. I do think that they would have stuff for their friends. If their friends come over, they might cook them for food. And I don't think I actually realised at the time that I added in 2 fridges. One of those is definitely meant to be a cooker. But I do switch that eventually. I just don't know if I get it in this video. I think that's so funny. I don't know how I didn't notice that. They're both clearly, very obviously, 2 fridges. I added in these curtains, which are from vampires, as just a base, just so I didn't forget about them, because sometimes it's harder to place furniture after because it clips and stuff. And then when I saw that pink swatches, and I like debated doing it a pastel colour, but I don't in the end. I'm not sure if I changed the wall colour actually. It's kind of very, here I go. Debating that. It's very library in here. I kind of wanted it to be very it's not so much dark academia, but I imagine they are very clever, they study a lot, so I do add in some bookshelves. In the end I go with that green swatch for the curtains, and I was like, should I do green because I've just done green in the werewolf? And then I was like, yeah, actually I'm going to, because I feel like it'd be funny if say they've come, like they didn't know each other before they moved in, and the werewolf has picked green and the vampire has picked green. I think the werewolf will love that they've picked the same colour and will bring it up all the time like they're best friends, and the vampire will despise that he keeps bringing it up, and it's like, look, we're not friends just because we've picked the same colour for our rooms, okay? And the werewolf's like, yeah, we are, it's meant to be. We've obviously got so much in common, and I just love that dynamic, so I left it as green. I gave them the coffin because I think vampires should only live in coffins, but I did want to section it off a bit so it wasn't on display, because again, like with the werewolves like rage out systems, I can't remember what it's called when it does it, but when it does that, I think it might be a private moment, and I feel like when a vampire is asleep in its coffin, it's also a private moment. So I kind of cordoned it off away from the room a little bit using these room dividers. I end up adding in 2 just so it's kind of a little bit more secluded, so that nobody, although you know it's there, I don't think they'd really want anybody seeing it and it being on display like a feature of the room. I think it'd be very much a private thing. And then the other side, I add in this like old school desk and chair, because I do think they'd be very academic, they'd be researching a lot, they would be very clever, maybe they're a professor, or they want to be a professor. So I added in a desk and loads of books. and just some general clutter. I don't think this vampire would be messy though. I think they'd be kind of organised, but just have stuff, if that makes sense. So I didn't want to add too much, but I wanted to add enough that it'd be a bit homey. So I'm just coming in now to add in their like little living area. They do end up with the biggest TV out of the 4 because I feel like they would just have the biggest TV. I feel like they can't help but be a little bit flashy, and they would just be very satisfied at the fact that they have the biggest TV and they're the richest of them all. But having said that though, like vampires, his family has probably been around for centuries. Like they've been around for so long. So if they're not like super rich, then what are you doing? Like they've done something wrong. I then add in a bookcase because again I think they'd be very much into research, into reading. I do pull out this bigger one but have to swap it down for a smaller one because I think it's just too big and I think it would block the chair slightly. I add in a rug and then I go off and start on the bathroom. So for the bathroom I wanted it to, it's obviously a tiny house so it can't be much, but I still did want it to feel a little bit luxurious in here. So I added in this bath and I think it's got like pebbles on the bottom. I'm not 100% sure what that texture is. They also get a separate shower, and then I stuck with like the black theme for the toilet and the countertops. I added in some basic clutter, just some towels above the bath, and then I also give them a towel by the sink there. I do add a dresser like a dressing gown into that shower area, but it probably would get really wet when they were in the shower, so it's probably not the best place for it. I don't actually add a sink above this mirror. There are no mirrors in this room, just because in this house, because I feel like vampires don't like looking in the mirror. I did debate, I pulled out like that little werewolves poster because I feel like I did debate adding in a picture of a werewolf or something, so when the vampire's getting ready they can look at it and like brood about their like nemesis that lives across the road. But I feel like it'd be kind of cute if it was like an enemies to lovers situation. So the vampire would never admit it, but the werewolf has started to grow on them, like their little jokes and their little jibs that they get in each time, like the little banter, the vampire has become very fond of it, and although they would never admit it to themselves or to anybody else, the werewolf has wormed its way into their heart. I think that would be very cute. I then just add some skills to each of the houses. I may have gone a bit stereotypical. I add in the chessboard for the vampires because I feel like they'd be very logical, and then I add in the game the PlayStation thing for the console there we go, for the werewolves. And then I also add the punching bag to the like rage room downstairs so they can get out their feelings on it. I give the witch a little bike with a basket at the front because I think it's so cute and I feel like they might use that to get around. I try and add in this basketball hoop just for some more athletic stuff for the werewolf, but it doesn't quite fit, so instead I get rid of that and I swap it for a telescope because I feel like maybe the werewolf shows like their little jock side on the outside. Everyone thinks they're like this really rambunctious into sports, but they've got like a deeper side to them. For the mermaid, I gave them a microphone and a guitar because I feel like they'd be into singing. Again, going back to that siren stuff I mentioned at the beginning, I think maybe they're very musical. And then I started working on the outside of this, and this is kind of where I wish I had a little bit more space to work with. Like looking back, I do go with it in the end and it does come together, but a little bit more space would have been just a bit nice. It wouldn't have felt as cramped, so I do fence it off just to make it a little bit more secluded. And then I start kind of working on the entryway here. I decide that it would be cute if they could all have their own like mailboxes, so I come back and I add those in. I theme them, so I will tell you whose is who, but I will let you kind of have a guess first which mailbox you think belongs to which supernatural creature. And then instead of a gate I add in this archway because again I feel like it's very community here. I think they have a lot of friends over, so they just like have an archway so that they can come and let themselves in. Here I am adding the mailboxes. They are all different to reflect their personalities. I think it's kind of hard to guess whose is who because there wasn't very much stereotypical ones for them. So the first one on the left is obviously for werewolves, then it goes vampire, witch, and then I gave the cat one to the mermaid. It's kind of hard to see them in this like view, but when I do a tour at the end you'll kind of see them a little bit better, and it's just like something little that reflects their personality. I wanted to add in some like proper pathways, I guess, to connect all these houses together. I wasn't really sure how to do it because I had this like focal point of the fire pit, and I felt like it was a bit cramped here, so I like with the paths it kind of looked a bit weird with the fire pit being on the path. So I kind of play around with it. I try and bring in some more grass, but then the path goes like too small on each edge. So I end up deleting it all and I start again. And I think I do end up moving the fire pit over just to give me some more space for the walkways. And I think it does look a lot better in the end because I do like this path that like connects them all together. I think it kind of gives it like a little village feel. So I do like it's like a community. So I do like that. And then I kind of have little sections to play around with and add decor to. So I start off, I believe, with the mermaid's house. Yeah, and I come in and I just kind of fill the space here with some plants. They're island living ones, so I feel like they're a little bit tropical. Again, reminder of her home. And I just put them down the side of her house. I do mix up the colours slightly, just so they don't all look the same. I think they're pink and white in the end. And then on the witch's side, I do the same, but I do it with the roses. There's not really much you could put down here, so I just kind of felt like it went with her house and with her like little window boxes. Again, I mix up the colours to like red and white, and then in the back corner I wanted to add a tree, but I wanted a tall one, but all the tall ones were like super wide as well and were clipping into the house, so I had to go for this one in the end. It's not too tall, but it's still there. Maybe it's growing. It's like a juvenile tree, so it'll get bigger over time. I then came around and just added in some dirt at the bottom of the fence there, just to kind of add some difference into the ground. So in this little entryway here, I kind of had it so that each house kind of has an outdoor section. It's like a community area outside, but there's still like little bits outside their house that reflect their personality. So I found a couple of bags that I thought maybe they've been using to get around, so I just kind of stuck those at the front. And then I started working on the witch's area. So like I mentioned before, I think the witch would grow her own herbs a lot and her own different things that she needs for her spells and stuff. So I did add in quite a few of these planters outside of her house. I then found just some different types of like gardening tools. So I put some seeds out. There's like a gardening tray that has some seeds and some clippers and some stuff in it. I add a few of those around, just like changing the colour. Because I feel like it's fine to have multiple things like that, because when you're gardening, you probably need multiple, like if you're cutting up a plant, you might go off somewhere else and need a separate pair of shears, so I think it's fine. I then kind of thought it looked a bit weird not having a border between the plants and like the walkway. I kind of wanted it to be like if the walkway had the edging, but I couldn't really find one. I found this one, which I think is from Get to Work, which was kind of okay. It's probably slightly too shiny for what I wanted it to be. Actually, it might be base game, but I kind of do go with it in the end, because I think it looks better, even though it's slightly shiny. It looks better than not having it. It kind of just adds a bit more order, I think, to the garden. And then down the side here, I kind of decide to like carry on the gardening theme. So she has a hose there, and then this flower arranging table where she maybe uses to cut the plants and stuff, like plant them into new pots, that kind of thing. And then under the window here, I do add in a couple more of the planters, just because obviously we have a vampire, so there's vampire plants as well. So maybe the witch, since the vampire doesn't go out, the witch kind of like, I'll grow your plants for you, because she's got like a green thumb, so she like takes that on. So I think she'd have a lot of things growing. And then at the bottom here, just to kind of finish it off, I added in another little garden just to add some more colour to the space. And I think it turned out quite well in the end. I border it with some rocks, and it just kind of, instead of it just ending like all her gardening stuff and then just being a fence, I think it just like finishes off the space well. I just shuffle around the rocks, resize some of them because I felt like they were a bit big, and just fill in that space. I then come back and add some dirt under them, just so for that little bit of realism. I then wanted to add some light onto these, onto the fence, and I'm sure there used to be a light that connected to them. I might have the wrong fence, but I'm sure there used to be a light that would just automatically clip to the top of a fence. You could like have it on the side, but I couldn't find, it wasn't doing it. So I kind of hacked these ones into it as if they're like kind of built into it. It doesn't look the best up close, but when you're playing it and you're like a little bit further away, it doesn't look too bad. So I do end up doing that kind of around the whole. I do it around this section and then round the back. I don't do it round the front. And then on the other side here, I add in some stuff for the werewolf, because this is kind of a shared space. It's between the werewolf and the witch's side, so they're going to have to get along and just share it. So I add in, again, another punching bag and just some workout equipment so that the werewolf can get away, like work out some of his excess energy. And then I just add in some sports balls, as if like maybe they like play catch or something in the garden. Just to be outside the house and like sporty. I use this mud path to kind of rough it up a bit, as if they've been walking here. There's no like designated path, but it's like I feel like they come down here quite a lot, so it's kind of worn away the grass a bit and it's just scuffed up to ground. Then in front of the werewolf's house, again, I just add in some more seats. I add in like a more like relaxed area, I guess, and to sit at, something a bit more comfy. So I add in a sofa with a like coffee table, and then I gave them a cooler as well, just so they can come out here and they can relax. Maybe I had a barbecue, so maybe like if it's late at night they can have some food, all that fun stuff. I feel like if the werewolf has friends over, they spend more time outside than they do inside, so I wanted them to have like a nice place for them to all sit out. And probably the vampire hates it, because these might be trying to play chess and quiet, and then the werewolf's on the other side cracking jokes and cooking burgers. So I think those two would have a very funny dynamic. I think that would be some interesting gameplay between the two of them, whether you do the enemies to lovers idea or whether you just do them full-on enemies. I think they would both be very entertaining together. And then the witch and the mermaid are either like encouraging them secretly, like as if it's enemies to lovers, like rooting for them, or just is like so over their whole stuff. I think it could be, there's a lot of gameplay with these four characters. I feel like that would be very interesting. I'm now kind of working on this central, well, it's not so much central anymore, but this like community fire pit. That one I originally pulled out was way too big, so I did end up having to swap it for something just a little bit smaller. And then I just put some seats around it. They're all a bit mismatched, as if like maybe they've each brought their own seating and they've kind of pulled it together in this community area. I end up swapping it out for like these log types, because I feel like they look a little bit better. They're a bit more rustic, but I do add in some other different types. We go back and add a little bit more to that area. And then here in front of the mermaid's house, I just decided to continue her little garden. I get some like super colourful plants, some sunflowers, that kind of stuff, and just kind of do this little area for her. I bring out that front one and that one I'm placing now, a super tall one. I kind of feel like maybe the witch has like grown some sort of plant hybrid, and it's a bit supernaturally. It's not like your earth plant you'd find in like a human's garden, because they kind of look a bit wacky, those two, so I added those. And then I think the mermaid would definitely sit on a butterfly camp chair, so I added that in. And then the other one I think is a wolf, so I added it for the werewolf. And then I wasn't sure what else to add here, because there's not much space, but then there is still a lot of space, but there's not like, you couldn't put anything big. So I kind of just roughed it up a bit. I added in a bin, an outdoor bin, because I didn't have one of those yet. And then I think I just placed another cooler. So they've got one in this area too. I think it's the little campus kit that comes with like a sheet projector. I don't have that kit, but that would have been very good here as like a communal space. I think I'll put this on the gallery if anybody is interested, and I think if you do download it and you have that kit, I would definitely switch out something and add that in, so they can all sit out and watch movies maybe at night. Again, I just add in a few more planters so that the witch can grow. Maybe she grows things for everybody, or maybe she's just kind of taken over the space because of the amount that she needs to grow. And then for the vampire, there wasn't really much I could add for him, because obviously, or her, they don't go out at night, so they didn't really have much. I added in some of these like dead-ish plants, just because I felt like they fit like the theme of their house. Maybe because the vampire side is in the shadows a little bit, like they've all just died off because they're not getting sunlight. And then I go into the gallery and I get this dead cow plant and add that too. Maybe I could have added in a real one, but I just felt like it matched in with like the dead vibes of the house. Maybe they've like reincarnated it, so although it's dead, it's still like is alive, like the witch has spelled it. So it's still like they can still interact with it, but it's obviously doesn't need feeding or anything. And then I just added in these stone benches because I think they fit with the vampire's house very well. And since this area was in the shade, I did decide to add in some planters for them, just so they could come out and they could grow some of the vampire plants if they needed to, and they wouldn't get burned up in the sun. And then I just like added in some more texture with the mud just to break up the grass a little bit. I then decided to add in this tree stump from Cottage Living, I think, for the mermaid, because I think they'd love the bunnies that come out of it. And yeah, this is the final tour. We'll just go through now and we go to each of the houses. I had a lot of fun building this. I think it was so much fun. I know I only did 4. I think I did like the 4. Pretty much when you say supernatural creature in the sim, I think these 4 are like the basic 4 that everybody thinks of. But obviously we've got others. We've got like aliens, we've got ghosts. We now have like the Green Reaper, which I think counts as a supernatural creature. We've got so many more that I could do. So if you want me to do another tiny build house and we'll do it with the others, I can 100% do that. We've got plant sims. I think plant sims would be quite cool. We could do them like a little greenhouse house. But yeah, we're just going through now, going into each of the houses. And this coming from like the other 3 houses, which are kind of dark, into this mermaid house is like a shock to the system because it's so bright in here. I really like how this turned out. It's kind of unfortunate for them though, because as they're like relaxing in the bath and they look out the window, there's just like that dead cow plant. But like I said, maybe the witch has bewitched it so she can still talk to it. It's just not alive. Yeah, let me know what you think of all of these. Let me know also if you want them on the gallery. I can definitely add them to the gallery if you want to download it, or if you've even just got any ideas of what like plays you'd do with them, like what characters you'd like to live here. Feel free to comment them below, because I'm very interested to see what like your take is on it, and how you'd interpret the story between them. But yeah, like I said, I do think I wish I moved it to just a slightly bigger lot. I think it would be better, just for that bit of more outdoor space. But yeah, guys, that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, comment below if there's any other builds you want me to do, and I will catch you next time. Bye!